Hello and welcome at this webinar in which I'll cover our CX management framework for how you as an organization can deliver on your promise, all the way from your brand promise as a company to the experience in all the customer journeys for each of your propositions, to the performance in each of the channels to deliver on those propositions, and eventually how you can streamline your operations in the backstage. And I'll walk you through our offering and our framework for how we can help you organize and operationalize that. All right. To deliver on your promise, we all want happy customers, satisfied customers that are really ideally turning into brand ambassadors. But how do you do this? How do you get customers to be excited about your brand and about your customer experience so that they recommend you to friends and family and others? Yeah, our view is that a great customer experience is the best investment you can make in terms of creating loyal customers and even brand ambassadors. But what is customer experience? Is really how customers experience your brand based on all interactions across all channels along the customer journey. So there's a lot of words in there, and it also means that a lot of teams need to be involved to make this happen. Across the brand team, all the channels, all the journey, the marketing people. So CX management, the management of customer experience really requires structured alignment between these departments. A great customer experience does not happen by accident. It really happens by design and needs like coordinated collaboration between teams. That said, in reality, what we see is that there are really like strategies from all corners of the business. Whether it's your IT department providing the digital transformation framework or plans, it's either the digital teams that have their digital strategy or marketing teams that have their proposition strategy and segmentation, and also the brand team probably has like a brand strategy document or brand values that they want to operationalize in the teams. So that's a lot of information, input, and guidance that is basically being provided to the teams. And also all these things influence your customer experience. So quite challenging also for the teams that deliver on your services to combine all this in their execution and development of your service offering. Wouldn't it be great, therefore, that this is a bit more coherent story? And this is really where our pyramid, our promise framework comes from, is how can we connect this more so that these are not 4 different guidance documents, but rather say, okay, if we know how we want to position ourselves and how we want our brand to be differentiating from our competitors, what is then our promise to the market for that? This can then lead to how you set the ambition for each of the proposition customer journeys per segment. And that can help you orchestrate all the different experiences and services across the different channels in the different teams to connect more the silos in the different departments. And ultimately, it can help you streamline all the operations and service delivery in the backstage. So basically the teams that don't have customer interaction but do deliver on the services. So yeah, this is basically the main vision for how we see to achieve really proper customer experience management. You need the connection between these layers in the organization. But easier said than done. So let me also show you how we help organize that. And this is also where our name comes from. And so we help connect the essence of a brand, the top of the pyramid, and deliver on that based on the customer needs. And so the essence of a brand and the sense for customer needs is where the name Ascens comes from. In reality, though, like I said, many organizations still operate in departmental silos. You have marketing team, you have your sales team, your online team, your customer service teams, and maybe probably a few other departments, all doing fantastic things and all stating they are customer-centric. And they probably are. And they probably all are customer-centric in their own domain. But that does not mean that you are also customer-centric and doing the right things for the customer across the whole customer journey, across these departments. Because each department kind of focuses on their own tasks and on their own internal processes and try to be customer-centric and keep the customer in mind for that. But of course, the customer is only interested in the entire service offering across all these departments. And this is what we see in reality is like, as long as all these departments operate in silos and do their own initiatives and interactions with the customers, it can lead to this kind of like fragmented customer journey that you see here at the top. Yeah. What we say instead is like, if by working more from a customer journey perspective, you create more alignment between these departments, and you can use it to help drive the alignment in the execution in the organization. And that way you start to operating in a more customer-centric fashion, or also known as outside in, starting with the customer perspective to drive how you operate internally, instead of inside out, which is more like working from your own department's perspective and optimizing the processes. So yeah, but easier said than done. We can't just make up these journeys, but of course they actually are driven from your brand position. What is your brand strategy? How are you trying to differentiate from your competition? What is the promise that you have to the market, that you say, okay, here's how we are different and why you should choose us and not the competitors. That can drive the ambition on the journey level, and then that can of course inform how you orchestrate your experience on a channel level. Yeah? So for example, if you want to be the most sustainable company in your branch, or you want to be the most personal, the most optimized for the younger generation, then of course this has influence on how you operate and prioritize your channel efforts. And ultimately how you connect that to the operations. So yeah, this is how we see customer experience management, is really the horizontal alignment of these departments, the different channels, the different departments along the whole customer journey. And this is really to create a seamless customer journey across all the way from marketing to customer service. But also the vertical alignment. And this is where your brand differentiation comes in. Because horizontally, you might focus only on the functional service offering. Vertically, you can really secure that brand connection that you have with your customer base. To say, okay, we are different, and this is how we deliver on that promise in the journeys and in the channels. So this is more the brand differentiation that you're also trying to execute. And customer experience management is really the combination of this horizontal functional alignment and this vertical emotional alignment of your brand promise in the interactions. And this is where this promise framework or pyramid framework from us comes from, is really how to drive brand promise into proposition journeys, into channels, into operations, and create alignment processes to drive the way of working for your teams across the different departments. Yeah, so this is also ultimately what you end up doing is it's on each of the levels you try to horizontally align and improve, but also vertically connect these levels. And this is basically what you're trying to do to operate really and cascade your strategic guidance all the way down to the different operational teams. And yeah, that's what we say. CX management really requires this layered approach to clearly identify what is it that you want to create your brand differentiation and customer loyalty based on. How does that drive all the different customer journeys for each of the propositions? What is the channel strategy for each of those journeys, and how do you prioritize different channel efforts from that journey perspective? And ultimately, how can you use that as a reference for streamlining your operational excellence in the backstage? And this is our promise framework that we use as the reference framework for aligning all your teams around their way of working. But that's a beautiful model, but the only journey that really matters is the one customers actually experience. So of course the proof is also in the pudding and seeing what is actually that we see in the market. So we also use this to measure the current experience. And so for example, on a top level, you can measure your brand preference, like what is it, things like NPS and brand loyalty and whether people are really ambassadors for your brand is measuring on a brand level. But also on a journey level, you want to measure how satisfied customers are with your service offering and the perceived value that they see. On a channel level, it's usually more about ease of use and simplicity and the effortless interaction. And also the conversion and performance side of things, of course, from the internal perspective is important there. And last but not least, the operational excellence, like how well do you actually deliver the service? So you can have a fantastic website, of course, but if ultimately customers are experiencing something else, then that might also have a cause in the backstage where your operational or your logistical experience efficiencies might not be perfect. And so we can also help that streamline so that you're enabling your teams to deliver a greater customer experience. And also enabling your employees to have a more satisfying workday in delivering to their customers. Okay, so per flight level, this can mean different metrics. I've just highlighted a few here. On a brand level, you can really try to focus on the loyalty and with indicators like NPS and customer lifetime value, but there's just a few. You may be using some other indicators as well. The more important thing is here to really drive that per level. And so on a journey level, you focus more on CSAT, churn, but also what are the important customer experience drivers that make people use your service. On a channel level, more on average scores, call completion rate, etc. And in your operations, really more like the functional scores around first time right, number of support calls, handling time, but also employee engagement are important in your own internal operational excellence. Important message here is that you don't measure only NPS or only CSAT, but that you find the appropriate metric per level, so that you really know, okay, we might be doing great on a brand loyalty level, but we're not really doing very well on this specific channel, or vice versa. Yeah, so that you get a lot more granular insight that allows you to really improve your services in a much more focused way. Okay, so this is all great. So once you have this framework and an approach for connecting all these levels, and also know how you're going to measure them, where do you start? Yeah, so this can be top down, when you say, okay, first I have the strategy and then I turn it into the specific ambition for the key journeys, and then I'd let that drive how you orchestrate all the initiatives and opportunities across the different channels, and then how you streamline it. This is like the textbook, top down, from your strategy to your operationalizing your teams along journeys, and then improving all the channels and streamlining your processes. But of course, in reality, it's sometimes also bottom up or a combination of these. Because sometimes you can also say, okay, we know this, but we first have to fix some bottlenecks in the backstage, because we know our processes are impacting the customer experience. So that's also, we see actually a lot of organizations in a variety of starting points here. What is actually most important is that you connect these layers, and not necessarily that you start top down or bottom up. Yeah? But important that you make sure that your channels contribute to your journeys, and your brand and the journeys contribute to a brand loyalty, and that the processes enable you to provide great channel experiences, and the other way around. So this is really the cycle of going around these four levels, up and down, is really what the kind of like the continuous improvement way of working that you want to establish in your organization. So how do we do this? So like we have a set of products that we offer to make this a reality. So first of all, we often start with a maturity assessment to understand, okay, how are you operating now? Like which of these levels are already connected? Where are you already using customer insights to improve things? Where is there already alignment between departments? Is it a standardized way of working or not, etc.? So with this maturity assessment, we're really trying to understand where you are at now, and then based on our maturity model, jointly define a capability building roadmap to say, okay, these are the kind of way of working and capabilities that we need to establish, and jointly define a roadmap for that to really build this customer-centric culture as an organization. Then secondly, it's like, okay, once you have that, then what is our top of the pyramid in our promise model? Like, what is the CX ambition? Like, how are we trying to differentiate from other brands, and how does that manifest itself in the different journeys and channels? And so, but you can't really operate that in the channels and in the journeys if you haven't really defined strategically how you're going to differentiate from other companies. And so this is really our product for working with your brand team, with your, but also with your business objectives, and your customer experience objectives to really say, okay, what is our differentiation strategy to really make sure that customer experience management is going to be a success formula for us. It is going to lead to better business outcomes. And this, of course, this is also important therefore that we involve your senior management and executives because this is really the strategic starting point and reference point for all the following 4 products that we're offering here. The first one is then, once you have that clear strategy and ambition in mind, really defining what are the key customer journeys and what is the governance model for driving those journeys. So like once you have the journeys, all the different channels and all the different opportunities and gaps, of course there is going to be a discussion around, okay, how do we prioritize all these opportunities? So really having a clear framework of all the customer journeys and a clear governance model for how the teams are going to collaborate from this journey perspective can really help prioritize all the different opportunities and epics and backlogs of the different agile teams in the departments. So very important to organize and define that governance model from the start. Then once you have that organized, of course, it's really important, and not even in serial but also in parallel, to start getting insights not only from customer research but also really from your data and your measurements. And so things like voice of the customer programs, but also things like surveys and other measurement tools and metrics to really build like a framework for measuring your customer satisfaction and customer insights on those 4 levels can really help drive that journey management that I just mentioned. Then still, a lot of companies still also don't have that foundational customer insight in place. So we also still help organizations with doing the actual customer research and designing of the different channels. So quite a lot of organizations do that in-house, but we also see still a lot of organizations where we can help with extra capacity to make that to do that work. To get that core customer insight to act on. And last but not least, and this is like the bottom of the pyramid, is really to help drive the efficient customer operations in the backstage. So really making sure that all the processes and systems and administrative tasks that people in the teams execute is also streamlined along that whole customer journey. All right, so that's. If you're interested in any of these 6 or a combination, of course, this is really kind of like the products that we offer to help you achieve connecting those layers of customer experience. So ultimately, once we do that, what is the promised land? So ideally, wouldn't it be great if your management in your organization could see how your brand performs in terms of loyalty and customer lifetime value, and how the different life cycle stages contribute to that? And also where you're strategically focusing on. Then how all the different proposition managers for each of your services and target groups would understand where the service journeys perform well and where not, and why. Then that can really help drive how, where all the product owners and designers would improve all the customer contact moments in the different channels to improve from that journey perspective. And last but not least, also it would give guidance to all the IT and systems and workflow of your operational teams to really to streamline their internal processes, because they also realize how it impacts the customer experience and the service delivery to the customers. So this is really ultimately, of course, what you want to have this at each of the levels of the pyramid, basically. So what does that look like when you do? Of course, then we have for each of the service offerings that you might have in your organization, the entire customer lifecycle, different macro journeys, like for example, I become a customer, or I migrate to another service, or I leave as a customer ultimately, hopefully not. And then within these micro journeys, you can break it down to all kinds of micro journeys that specific teams in your organization might be working on, and ultimately really to interaction flows and processes that specific designers or developers might be working on. And what this does is really connect the strategic customer relationship level to the very detailed customer interaction level. And that's this way it cascades nicely down in an orchestrated, coordinated fashion, rather than all kinds of teams doing all kinds of great things, but not having a mechanism or a system for those things to add up. And this is really what we provide with this journey management way of working. And then you can also start measuring that and of course really see on each of those levels of the journeys where you score. And so your NPS might be fairly high, and then you might see that if you drill in some specific micro journeys that might really be causing the somewhat low NPS, and then other areas might actually be in great shape. But breaking it down like this would really help you gain a lot more insight in understanding which contact moments and which channels are really contributing to a great experience or actually causing a suboptimal experience. And this gives you a lot more insight as to where in the whole customer journey across your departments you should prioritize your efforts. And for this, of course, when you start managing, we also need tooling to really operationalize this. And this is also why we are a certified partner of Dado and Qualtrics to really operationalize your journey management in Dado, for example, but also to measure all the different customer experience scores with tools like, for example, Qualtrics. And ultimately, and in this example, you can even connect the tools to say, okay, where I map and manage my journeys is also where I see the performance dashboards of how the customer experience could. And this ultimately really becomes like your cockpit for orchestrating and improving your customer experience across all the different touch points and channels in your organization. Okay, that's it. That's how we help put your customer first in your organization. And really, as you can see, this is much more than just a few happy customers. This really requires connection from your strategic guidance around how you want to differentiate and how you really operationalize that to the different teams, leading to a great customer experience if you do it well. And then, of course, that can only help attract more customers, higher NPS, more customer loyalties, and for that reason, better business outcomes, which I'm sure we all are looking for. So if you want to connect and see more of this, go to our website at essence.eu or download our white paper, or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll keep sharing messages and webinars like this all the time. So yeah, hope to see you there, and thanks for attending this webinar.